Hi, I'm Allie Hamilton, and I'm so happy to welcome you to the Come As You Are podcast. Every week, we'll be talking about some aspect of healing, usually around childhood wounds and complicated familial relationships. The topics will always coincide with my personal essay of the week, and this will be a place where we can take a deep dive together. I'm so thrilled you've joined me and delighted for you to always come as you are. Hi there. Hi there. Welcome to our talk. Today, the topic is This is Not an Audit. And if you are in the United States, if you are not in the United States, you probably know what I'm talking about. It's a very strange experience being here. I would love to be talking about, writing about other things. And it's really hard to do that when you are existing in a situation like this. It is kind of a constant, it's a constant presence because it's dizzying, and devastating and heartbreaking and enraging and outraging and all of those things, right? Because there's such a strange situation going on here, that we've certainly never seen anything like this before in our history. Definitely, in my lifetime, absolutely. But even in the history of this country, we've never seen anything like this. And then you have half the people who are really happy about what's happening. Well, I shouldn't say half the people, half the voting public still seems to be largely on board with what is happening. And, the almost half the voting public who really tried everything possible to make sure this didn't happen is just in despair. And then you have the people who didn't vote. And then you have the people who, withheld their vote. And so there's just there's just a really strange set of circumstances here. And then we are, for example, like I spent the day yesterday gathering my tax documents because that is what you have to do here at this time of year. But you feel insane. You feel insane because it's like, am I really going to write a check to the Treasury in a few weeks? And the answer is, yeah, you are, because you have to play by the rules, but they don't. I mean, that's kind of like where it's at. It's like a crazy making situation where it just, it's very difficult to just kind of like go through the day and have a quote unquote normal day in the midst of watching something happening in your country that is just, it's just gutting. And there are people fighting. There are a lot of people fighting back. I think there are a lot of people who are recognizing what's happening here. And I think there are a lot of people who really aren't. I think even the people who voted for this are not, they're part of what's going on here is not, what I'm going to say is not new. It's just we're in like these information bubbles, right? We're in these echo chambers that are not by accident. I think when we look back on this from like a more historical perspective, out in the future, the seeds for what we're seeing right now were planted years ago. And I think social media, we've created these two different these alternate realities where you've got people in the same country looking at the same situation, feeling incredibly different about what is happening. And you also have billionaires in our country, and this has been going on, this is not new, who are not being taxed. Citizens United was the beginning of a really terrible situation where corporations are being treated like human beings, and money in politics. None of these things are new. So that's what I'm saying. There's been a slow eroding of some of these checks and balances that were put in place to keep us safe from what we're seeing right now. And I think that any one of them alone wouldn't be enough to threaten democracy, but all of them together, we're in a really precarious situation now. And so what we have at the moment are billionaires who are not being taxed. And I don't know if you saw, like at the inauguration, there were 14 billionaires on stage behind the president. 14. That was, not an accident. And those are the people that are being served right now by all of these things that are happening. You can take, time will play this out. So you can go and kind of like check a lot of these things that are happening. But for example, people keep talking about this week alone, the president put out an executive order about the FCC, the FTC, and the SEC. These are independent federal regulatory agencies that were reporting to Congress. And they do things like protect us, the American people, from fraud, from scams. They encourage competition so that you can't have, for example, like one broadband company running the show, because then they can charge whatever they want and you don't have any options. You just have to go with that one package. Well, who's going to benefit from something like that? Probably someone who owns a company like Starlink would benefit from something like that. And if you have now the three agencies that are supposed to be looking out for the American people under the control of the White House, that's a conflict of interest. There's a check and balance that is no longer, in action for us. And people are like, well, but he can't do that with an executive order. The courts will intercede. They don't care about that either. That's the problem, right? The judiciary, they're showing the Congress is supposed to control the purse strings. It's not legal to appropriate, to impound funds that the Congress has appropriated for different government agencies and things that we were doing, like aid that we were giving, global aid that we were giving. That's not okay to do, and they're doing it. They don't care. So when people are saying, well, he can't do that, it's like, well, yeah, right. He can't do a lot of things, but he's doing them. So that doesn't give me a lot of comfort. And this whole time, I've been sort of trying to figure out a number of things, but one of them is that day that, Musk and these Doge boys showed up at the Treasury Department. What happened? Why weren't the police called? There's what happened there? Because these are not elected officials, right? This is literally a private citizen waltzing into the Department of Treasury with dudes, 6 kids who are 18 to 25 years old with social media handles like Big Balls, everyone, okay? This is who's looking at your information and putting it on flash drives. And I just, partly what I was writing about this week is in a reverse situation, if Harris had won and the first thing she did was send a billionaire friend of hers, Melinda French Gates, into the Treasury with 6 co-eds, okay, with flash drives, I guarantee you the people that voted against, they would be up in arms, literally. And we know what it would look like because we all saw January 6th. We know exactly what would be happening right now. It would not be pretty. And, the people who voted against these men that are in power, we don't do that. We don't go to the Capitol and, bring bear spray and beat police officers with flagpoles and break down doors and defecate on the Senate floor. We don't do that. We make phone calls. We call our senators relentlessly every day and leave voicemails. We make signs and go to protests, like we organize, we donate, we're polite, but we're not that. And so I've been trying to figure out what happened inside, like what happened that first day, and wondering, there's like this line from a film, and I meant to look it up, but it's something about like, you can walk into any building almost with like a clipboard and one of those vests, and if you do it with enough confidence, like no one will stop you. I think it was The Paper, actually, but don't quote me on that. And I was wondering if that's kind of like what happened on that Friday. They just walked in with so much kind of like arrogance and aggression and like, we're here and we're doing this, that, people were just completely, what are you talking, like what, where you are so caught off guard and the thing that is happening is so outside the realm of possibility, right? The realm of anything you imagined might happen, that nothing logical occurs to you to do in response because the thing that's happening is unthinkable. So you're just kind of like frozen. And the person who was the head of the Treasury, who had been there since 1989, bipartisan, he did try to stop it. A lot of people have really tried hard to hold their ground, to say this is not, you don't have, this is not, you don't have clearance for this. This is not legal. This is not constitutional. People have resigned in protest. There have been a lot of people who've actually put their, their ethics, their morals, their love of this country where their mouth is, a lot of them. And I applaud those people, but it's just hasn't been. I think there's just been such a shock about what has happened that there has been this thing of being caught sort of like flat-footed. And I think by the time people realized like what was going on, it was just already done. The flash drives, the information, it's taken. Like they have it. So even these court cases that are like, you have to give that back and delete it. It's like, who's going to make them? Who's enforcing that? And all of the like cloaked, there's no transparency here. I'm sorry, Musk tweeting is not transparency, and wild, errors being made in the things that even they are reporting themselves. So it's like, there's nothing, this is not how an audit is done. Okay. It's not an audit. And that is why I named my essay, This Is Not an Audit. Maybe put down the kombucha, because if you want to go into government agencies with like bipartisan sort of like, oversight, and really take a look with a scalpel and figure out like, where's their waste? Where are there places where maybe we're like spending money? Great. I don't think there's any American anywhere that wouldn't support that. This is not that. This is not that. This is just, so many civil servants being fired. Even like yesterday, there have been so many examples, and I linked a lot of them in the essay if you want to go and look. But like the people who are managing our nuclear arsenal, they fired like 350 of those people and then tried to hire them back because they oh shoot, those are really important. We need those people. And then they couldn't even reach them because their government emails had been deactivated. They're gutting things. I think they're using AI for a lot of this stuff too. They're just running programs. I was reading last night, all these programs that had the word transition were just gutted. And there was a program for kids who are, they have special needs, and they transition from like high school to college. And there were different departments that were there, different resources that were there to help with that transition. Well, because transition is a word used in, gender affirming care, boom, gone. Like, it's just, our national parks, people are being laid off left and right. Park rangers, people who keep the park safe, gone. Yosemite's not like they're normally, this would be a time where your people are booking their summer trips. They're holding those reservations back because they don't know if they're going to be able to handle it. So there's just a lot of really heartbreaking personal stories going on. People posting things like, I had this job, private sector job where I was trying to, help kids who needed like mental health support, ADHD, like different areas. And I've been fired. I was let go. I took the government job with less money because I felt like all kids deserved like access to mental health support and resources. And I just lost my job, overnight with no warning. This is not what you do when you're trying to cut waste. If you want to cut waste and you want to find money, tax the billionaires. It's the number one first thing. It's the most obvious first thing. Tax the billionaires. What? This is not hard. Start there. Give everybody some good faith, and then we can start talking about going in with a scalpel and trying to find waste in other places. Tax the billionaires first. You telling me people in this country, they can't afford to pay their fair share of taxes if they have $1 billion, but I can and you can? Teachers can, nurses can, but somebody with $1 billion can't, or 2 or 3 or 4 or $400 billion. These people can't afford to pay their fair share of taxes. Do that first. And then talk to me about how we can't afford the less than 1% of our federal budget to take care of kids in other countries, in war-torn countries who don't have enough food. Miss me with that conversation until we start doing the most obvious, reasonable thing. And I mean, Chris Murphy he did a live last night from the Senate, and he was talking about how, just like this, the budget bill that the Republicans are trying to pass right now, and the way that it works, and that it's the procedural stuff that goes along with it. And the minority party, which is the Democrats, they're allowed to propose as many amendments as they want and to force votes. They're allowed to force people to go on the record to say no to things. And one of the things that they proposed last night was no tax cuts for billionaires. Anybody making $1 billion or more, let's just agree. We should all be able to agree that whatever this budget is doing, we're not trying to increase their tax, and not one of them would say yes to that. So what does that tell you? It's not difficult what's going on here. Our SNAP, people who are already barely surviving in this country, their benefits are shrinking. Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, all these things are on the line. And for what? For people who are already have more money than they could ever spend in a lifetime, for them to make more. I don't think people understand what's going on. A lot of people. I think there are a lot of people who do, but I think a lot of the people who voted for this are being told that it's great and it's an audit. And the reason I think that is because I see these comments. I see them. I see what people are posting. This is great. Businesses have audits all the time. There's so much waste in government. There's so much fraud. This is good. And all these people, they're freaking out. Well, let me tell you something. This is not that. That's not what we're looking at right now. And people are, this is not freaking out. People are devastated because the Constitution and the checks and balances and democracy are in play right now. It's huge. These are not small things. A lot of people I know are really scared and really angry. And yeah, it's still, even now, watching all of these things happen that are so far outside. They're so far outside, the law. Like, this is not, really, if people would just do that one thing and ask themselves, right, people who voted for this, how would I feel if Harris won and this is what was happening? If they would just honestly take a beat and really, because the thing is, I can tell you, and I'm, hand to whatever, I put my hand on anything you want. If Harris won and this is what she was, I would be in the streets with you. I mean, peacefully. I'm not, but this is not okay. And every American should be banding together. We should all be banding together right now and saying, no, absolutely not, But I wouldn't have been able to vote for people in the first place who were saying the things these people were saying in the entire election. Project 2025, every time you tried to say, hey, this is what they wanted, he has nothing to do with that. This is what it is. It's dismantling the government, privatizing everything, and using AI. They want like a techno-authoritarian government. They want one dude, the White House social media account is posting ASMR videos of people being deported in the ankle shackles. That's like not normal, okay? That is, I don't even have words for how disgusting and embarrassing that is, and horrifying. Like, it's just, and then I'm like, we have an American president siding with Vladimir Putin against our allies and just literally saying Ukraine started a war they did not start. Like, there's some really, I don't really know what else, So that's what we're all waking up to and dealing with, aside from all of our friends, family, ourselves, who are scared because these people, like, I don't know if you've heard about the SAVE Act, they're trying to make it harder for women to vote. If you don't have a passport, and a lot of people in this country don't have a passport, they don't have the expendable income to be traveling outside the country, and so they don't need a passport. Passports are expensive. They don't have, they don't own one. They don't have one. If you go to renew your voter registration and you don't have a passport, then you have to bring your birth certificate and another piece of ID, like your driver's license, for example. Well, if your driver's license last name does not match the name on your birth certificate, because let's just say you got married and changed your name, you will not be able to renew your registration. Who does that impact? Just ask yourself. Classically, who's changing their last name in this country? Women. So, all these people who were like, oh, they're not going to try to do a national abortion ban. They're not, that's exactly what they're doing. It's already happening. There are states that are trying to make it so that anybody who has an abortion can be facing the death penalty. In Texas now, no longer rape and incest. Those are not reasons that that the abortion ban is not in effect for you. The only thing in Texas right now is the life of the mother. That's it. So if you are 11 years old in Texas and your stepdad's a pedophile and you're pregnant, too bad. You get to be traumatized again. Like, this is what we're talking about here. If you think that that's okay, I don't know, you and I are on very, very different pages about what is okay, And the doctor who tries to help that 11-year-old from another state, that doctor is likely to face more prosecution than the stepdad. That's where we are here. So, and we have children, this whole thing of like the transgender community, and the way that they used that. I mean, it's disgusting. It's also disgusting. It's a tiny fraction of the population who feels like I am in the wrong body. I was born into I don't feel like I'm in the right body. And this idea of kids going to school as one gender and coming home, really? Do you really think that happened anywhere? I don't even know what to say. And this is what we're dealing with here. That never happened, not one time. Did a child go to school as one gender and come home as another? That never, ever happened. Just like abortions after birth never, ever happened anywhere. And so some of what we're dealing with is just, I don't even know what to, I don't know what to say here, like that I haven't said before. But I think that part of what has happened over the last couple of weeks, and I'm going to talk about also yoga and politics in a minute, but because I got a message from someone that we're going to talk about. But where was I going? I wanted to. I'll circle back to that. I think part of what is going on here is this, rampant sort of entrenchment. It's like I'm seeing it this way, and this is how it is, and an absolute unwillingness to, just like possibly like breathe a little bit. What's funny is I have a few people in I'm barely on Facebook anymore. I get on Facebook to access, I've got a private group here on Facebook that I built over years. I've had a yoga website that I began back in 2009, and I built a community at the time, as we all were, right? I have currently a business page that I started blogging on back in the days when we blogged. And I was writing about yogic philosophy for the Western mind, kind of like how do we apply these principles to our stressful, busy modern lives? How do we, for example, ahimsa, right? Like non-harming, like how do we apply that? And what does that mean? And what does it look like? And a lot of the time I wouldn't even use the Sanskrit. I'd just be talking about, for example, like the quality of your inner dialogue, the way that you're talking to yourself. Like maybe you're really kind as you're moving through the world, but you're incredibly, like if someone actually heard the way that you're speaking to yourself, they'd be devastated on your behalf. Things like that. And it was just the right thing at the right time. And this is before, Facebook was hiding things and the whole algorithm stuff where it's like now, anyway, so I was blogging back then and it took off, and there's 174,000 people on that page. And it used to be that if I posted something, it would get shared. You'd like 50,000, like that's why people joined, because you could build your business and you could, reach people that you wouldn't be able to reach otherwise in all parts of the world and have these amazing conversations. And it was incredible. Now, of course, I understand you built your house on somebody else's property. Eventually, they're going to want some rent. That's reasonable. I understand that. And so when that started, I was like, okay, I get it. But now it's gotten to the point where, if you want the majority of your people, even forget about the majority, if you want 10% of your people to see your stuff, you have to pay X dollars. If you want 20%, you have to boost, and it's this much, 30, 40, 50, whatever. And it's like, there were times throughout the last several years where I might boost something if I was like offering a 30-day, like, hey, I'm going to do meditations every morning and journaling prompts and a yoga class. And like, if you want to join that, I might boost something like that. This is years ago now. But that's about it. I really didn't do a lot of that. And now I will not do it. I'm not going to be putting money into like Mark Zuckerberg's pocket. I'm not doing that. So when I post stuff there now, like only if people have actively, selected this thing where they're going to see, do they see anything? And so that's where it's at. Like, I get on here to reach the people on the private group that I have that's very active and beautiful and loving. And I post and I walk away. That's about it. So I have a personal page so that I can access those other pages. And I see some people on my personal page. I try to just jump on and jump off for my own mental health and well-being. This is not, it's I really don't want to be on social media these days. It's just not pretty. But there are some really disturbing things, even just jumping on that you kind of like, there are times I'm like, I really wish I didn't see that, where people are posting things like, about how happy they are about what's happening. And some of these people are people that I know, like that maybe took my class for 20 years, where I'm like, a couple of times I've tried to engage because I know this person, like I've seen this person face to face. And out here in Los Angeles, where I am, in the yoga community and the quote unquote wellness world, a lot of strange things happened during COVID. I mean, a lot of strange things happened anyway, during that time. But people who were very much like, I'm doing my own research and I'm scared of these vaccinations, and I'm like, okay, listen, when I had my kids, I was scared. I will always be transparent with you. I was scared of the vaccination schedule. It seemed like so many vaccinations in such a short amount of time. It was like 2 years and, 38 vaccinations or something. So I had a great pediatrician. I still miss him to this day, passed away about 5 years ago. And I told him, I'm like, I'm anxious, can you work with me and help me? Like, I want to read about as much of this as I can before we do these things. And he was like, absolutely. And he would send me really good, solid information from medical journals and, studies, like real science. And the American Medical Association, like he just was very patient and loving and wonderful and respectful. And I slowed down the schedule. So I am not someone who's just like, yeah, here's my arm, just give me anything you want, But I have a lot of respect for people who have spent their lives studying infectious disease. I have a lot of respect for people who've spent their lives studying any particular thing that is fascinating to them, who spent their time and energy and money and, dedication trying to educate themselves about any topic that I don't know, nearly as much about. And I am not arrogant or crazy enough to think if I spend 20 minutes on YouTube, I'm going to know as much as they do. Okay? Just like I've spent 34 years studying this practice of yoga and meditation, and I know a lot more about it than somebody who spends 20 minutes on YouTube. That's just normal, right? I've been writing my entire life. I probably know some things that somebody who's just decided maybe they want to write doesn't know yet. That's how it works. When you spend a lot of time and energy learning about something, absorbing, educating yourself, studying with people, you're going to know some things. And I respect that. But we got into a very strange place where, and oh my gosh. And then again, we go back to social media and disinformation and all the things that are being fed to us. And how much of that stuff, like, you don't even know where it's coming from. That's part of what we're dealing with here. Like, where are this algorithm, like the things that were being shown? I was just watching, Jessica Yellen has she's been incredibly active. She's a wonderful person to follow. And she had a live this morning, and they were talking about like how much Russian influence there is in the social media. You like look at something, you don't even know where it's coming from. And like the way that they're moderating these feeds or not moderating them, is a thing that like, we don't have access to that. We don't know. And so now there's those little I buttons, right? Remember the little information button that started? And they don't like any of that, this administration. They don't want any regulation. They don't want any of that going on. In fact, like our new vice president basically just threatened the EU and said, if you start regulating our companies, we're going to have a problem. Meaning like, don't regulate our social media. Don't mess with us. So we're in a very strange world, and people are seeing things, and just like people are going to believe what they want to believe, And so we started hearing these crazy Pizzagate and like Hillary's in the basement with like, there's no basement in that pizza place. There's a lot of, and people talking about Fauci, and he probably went to Jeffrey Epstein's. Okay. Have you not seen the pictures of our president with Jeffrey? Like, you don't even have to like make stuff up. It's right there. And I grew up in New York City, so I knew this man that was now our president for the second time. We all in New York, nobody was confused. Okay. No one was confused about who he was, because he screwed over everybody left and right. Any architect that worked for him, any contractor that worked for him, any plumber that worked for him would have told you easily, oh yeah, no, do not do business with this person. But, people don't want to believe. They don't want to listen. My own, stepmother was an architect who worked on one of his projects, and her architecture firm got screwed. So, and I was 12 years old. It was 1983. 12 years old. Was that right? I was born in 71. So whatever, do the math. I'm too tired right now. So, that's what we're talking about here. This is a pattern of behavior going back, so far long, before even the reality TV stuff. Okay. This person has been unethical from the get-go. It's nothing new, and horrible to women, and zero respect for women. And that's just where it's at, that's where it's at. So what can you do? People are going to believe what they want to believe. But here in the Los Angeles kind of like yoga community, a lot of people they went way off the, like, I'm not getting that, I don't want that vaccination. It's my body. You can't make me. Like, okay. I mean, but like polio, measles, like, there's a lot of, there are a lot of diseases that we have eradicated because of vaccines. And full stop. And so I think what happened is that sort of, that energy there is where we end up with RFK and the whole, vaccines are terrible. And now those people are with him. And so when he is appointed to the head of our healthcare system now, they're excited. And I'm holding my head in my hands because we have a giant measles outbreak in Texas right now. And, no one wants to see polio come back, right? Nobody wants to see, we don't even know what is happening with bird flu. We have a man who left a bear cub in Central Park when he was 60 years old as a prank and wasted city resources because he grew up with so much money that he thinks that's funny. at 60. This is not something that happened in the distant past. This is who's running our, health situation here. I mean, it's just, it's terrifying, really. And there are people who are really excited about it. And again, I'm not somebody who's like, here's my arm, just put anything in there that you want. I'm not that, obviously. I'm pretty, I like to know what I'm eating and what I'm drinking, and I take really good care of myself. But I trust epidemiologists and scientists. Like, if I can read and see studies, I'm going to respect those people. I'm not going to think that I can just like get on YouTube and know as much as they do, with a couple hours of like watching some videos. But this is where we are right now. So there's just a lot of strange stuff going on, and it is really painful to watch. And when you try to have conversations with people who did vote for this, I do see starting to see finally some people that are like, ooh, I didn't vote for this. I saw like a teacher in one of the red states, and she was like, my whole budget is being cut here. This is going to gut our entire, I don't know how we're going to do any of the things that we need to do. It's like, yeah. And it is frustrating to see people who only care when it impacts them. Of course it's frustrating. It's more than frustrating. It's, it is insulting to one's heart that a person's only going to care when it impacts them and not care about other people. Yeah, it's really hard to take. But I'm at the point now where I'm so desperate and concerned for this country that I'm just like, listen, at this point, I just want his supporters to understand what's happening and like start helping, fight back. That's all I want, the rest of it, whatever. Like, yes, we can talk later about how you possibly could have decided it was okay to vote for someone like this in the first place and not care about your neighbors who are part of the LGBTQ community, like your Black, brown, indigenous friend. Do you not have friends? Like do you, it's just like, it's really hard to understand how you could bring yourself to vote for some people who spoke in such a derogatory fashion about every other group except straight white Christian men. It's very hard. And there is a conversation that needs to be had at some point, but it isn't now. Right now, I'm just like, please just like realize that these people that you have put in power are dangerous and terrifying, and start calling your senators and congresspeople, because we need them to find a spine and start upholding the Constitution, which is the oath that they took. That's what they're supposed to be doing. And if they don't hear from their constituents, and they're getting angry, by the way. I saw there was a town hall in Georgia. I don't know if it was last night or the night before, but they're like, a lot of people now finally like, hey, I didn't vote for this. I didn't vote for a king. This is not okay with me. And these representatives are getting angry at their constituents for having the gall to have an opinion and to show up and express it. And we need more of that. We need a lot more of that. Those people, they were not taking it. They were like, they didn't, and it was a lot of women. It's a lot of women speaking up, which is just, usually what happens. It's the people whose rights are on the line who end up having to fight these battles. And a lot of the time in our country, it has been Black women who are doing the heavy lifting. And it's enough. It's more than enough. Like, I am, there's a lot of finger pointing going on, because people are so upset. And that's what people want to do when they're upset. They want to figure out who to blame. personally, it's like there's a lot of things to blame. All the things I've been talking about, social media and like, foreign influence and billionaires not being taxed and Citizens United and all of that. But if you're dying to point your finger at like some group of voters, point them at white women, conservative white women. They're the people who let us down in this last election cycle. Having said that, I don't even know what to think anymore about this last election cycle anyway, because there's just all these other things that these people are doing are so wildly illegal and unethical and outside the law that who even knows? I don't even know anymore, but I'm not going there any more than I just did. Okay, so like, I think there's a part of this that is because I have been practicing yoga and teaching yoga. It's been 34 years now. It's a long time. And meditation. There's a few things. Like sometimes you'll see people, nobody who knows me or practices with me is saying stuff like this because people know me. but sometimes I'll see things like this in my feed, and there's a yoga teacher I know, and he said like he's not sleeping, and I was talking about this last week a little bit. Somebody was saying, oh, like why aren't you supposed to be like meditating more? Like, okay, if you have been practicing, if you have a spiritual practice and it's not making you a more compassionate, loving, kind person, I would argue there's something going wrong with your spiritual practice. If you can get up in a country where there is a coup going on and just be like, la, 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 pass the kombucha, I'm non-attached. Like that's not, that's not a spiritual practice for me, I feel part of what we're supposed to be doing and part of any worthwhile, and even the word spiritual practice, like, it's like, is a foundation. That's hopefully what it's offering you, is some steadiness in times where it's really hard to find any steadiness. And this would certainly qualify as one of those where just everything feels upside down, hanging off its axis, like hard to figure out which way to turn or what to do or how to function or what to think, that hopefully in those times, not that we've seen a lot of times like these, but, times of upheaval or confusion, you have somewhere to go where you can center yourself and calm your nervous system and really try to face reality as it is, right? To look at what's in front of you and see clearly. Part of what we're trying to do is like wipe the lenses clean, because we're all bringing stuff into every situation, always. We're always bringing our own past histories and things that we've taken away from experiences that we've had, ways we've been hurt or let down, things that good things that have happened, like all of that sort of cause and effect that we've been through from the time we were tiny to right this minute. We bring all that information into every situation with us unless we really work on it. And so it's your frame of reference, right? And so being aware that you have a frame of reference is really, even that alone is really helpful in wiping the lenses clean. It's, if you think about your frame of reference even as like, like actual glasses that you put on your face that you're walking around with, if you can take those off so you can just kind of like see what's in front of you and not bring all this like other stuff into the situation, that's ideal. And it's not, if you have been, for example, practicing yoga for, 30 plus years or meditation, that you're just going to be calm. You're just going to be chill, man. Like, okay, it's all temporary and, I'm not going to laugh. This is just what's happening. That's not it. It's that if you are seeing people being harmed, you hopefully want to help. You hopefully feel empathy or more, or outrage, or you say to yourself, Sam Nordquist, I don't know if you saw, absolute, just devastating, poor kid. Like, I'm not going to talk about, I linked it in my essay. A friend of mine wrote an essay this week about just this beautiful kid who isn't here anymore. It made me think of Matthew Shepard, and I mean, so many kids who have died at the hands of violence because people are intolerant. This is not it. Raising intolerant kids is so sad. The kids learn that at home. Unfortunately, right now they're also learning it in the world around them, and they're learning it. These Andrew Tates of the world, but it's devastating if you can just read a story like that and not feel, beside yourself, with sadness and despair. Something's going wrong. That's like a useful spiritual practice, because you are putting yourself in somebody else's shoes and imagining how you would feel. And that alone is a thing that's going to inspire you to take action on somebody else's behalf. We need that. That is a meaningful spiritual practice, is, the ability to feel that. There's a little girl, 11 years old, in Texas, who committed suicide because there were bullies at her school telling her they were going to report her family to ICE and have them deported, and that she would be here alone. And she killed herself. This is I don't know what to do with the rage that I feel hearing that, and the grief that I feel. It's that's not the world that I want for our children. The fact that that little girl is not here right now is not okay. The fact that we lose children every week in this country because of gun violence is not okay. There's a lot of things that are not okay. And if you think your spiritual practice is about being calm and non-attached so you don't have to feel any of that, definitely do not come and practice with me, because I'm not the right person for you. I'm not the right teacher for you. The teachers right now out there who are not talking about any of this, and haven't been this whole time, and are the people no politics in the yoga room. You know who they are? They're the teachers who are not worried about their rights. So you can do the math on that. That's who they are. They're mostly straight, white dudes. A lot of silence from that bunch of spiritual teachers, A lot of silence. A lot of talking about non-attachment. It's real easy to be non-attached when your rights are not on the line and you can't actually imagine what it feels like to be unsafe most of the time. When you really have no lived experience of what it's like to be, oh gosh, the street is dark, looking around, looking behind your shoulders, figuring out if you need to take your keys out and put them between your fingers, if you need to text a friend and turn your location services on, if you're driving somewhere and you suddenly realize it's totally desolate and somebody could just pull out and bump the back of your car, and what would you do? Would it be safe to stop your car or not? I found myself in that situation not too long ago. I was driving back from visiting my son at school, and I was using Waze, and I went, I followed Waze, and it took me in this incredibly desolate, pathway. And at first I was like, oh, this is great. There's no traffic. And then suddenly I realized I am in the middle of nowhere. There are fields of just everywhere, and tall fields of wheat, and if somebody came out with their car and bumped my car right now, I really don't know what the right thing would be to do. I don't know, because this is how every nightmare scenario starts, It's this is the fact, this is a common thing that women are thinking about all the time. So if you're a guy and you're driving along, I'm sure that thought doesn't even occur to you. You're just driving. You're probably blasting your, whatever it is. Well, it's really easy to be non-attached. It's really easy to say like, hey, relax. It's America. It's going to be okay. I'm going to tell you something. Like right now, if we don't get it together here, everyone's going to be impacted, even those dudes. Unless you're a billionaire, then you'll probably be okay. And the millionaires, they like those people too. So if you're a millionaire, you'll probably be insulated from most of this. And if that's who you are, I mean, I don't know what to say. Like, if that's who you are and that's how you want to do your life, good luck, I guess. Like, I don't know. I certainly wouldn't. I wouldn't want to be you at the end of my life on my deathbed. Just not caring about anything except my tax breaks and what's good for me. And, yeah, I would not want to be that person. Even with all the financial relief of never having to worry about bills, I still wouldn't want to. I would not trade places at all, ever. Wouldn't even think about it. So, I guess we all have our different lines of things. But I think what I really wanted to kind of end with is, it's very hard when you're in a situation and you're looking at the same thing that other people are looking at and you're coming away with a completely different view. It is so hard, right? And I want to say to the people who are scared about what is happening in this country, you're not crazy. There's reason to be scared, for sure. This is not like anything we've ever seen before. It is certainly not an audit. I saw somebody saying, "Oh, he's so nice, Elon Musk. He does these things. He sleeps on the floor. Okay." He's made more money every day since this election than you will ever see in your entire lifetime. He's not doing this out of the goodness of his heart. This is not some, please, like, that is not the level of delusion that you have to be suffering from to think that this billionaire is trying to do you a solid is like, please, like, that's not what's happening. These just aren't good people. He through his support to like go read about Germany and Vance. I linked that too in the essay. And who these people are throwing their support to. Just educate yourself about what's happening right now, and it won't be confusing. You'll see what's going on here, what's being gutted, and who's going to benefit, and what's happening on the global stage. Canada is like, they hate us right now. Canada, always like our buddies. They're not happy, and I don't blame them. Like we're being isolated. And that is also microcosm, macrocosm. I don't know how many of you have ever been in a relationship with like an abusive narcissist, but that's the first thing, is to cut you off from your friends and family. And, we're there. We have a bunch of people that are out there saying and doing things that are just so offensive and horrible, that we're like on our own here. And we really do. Hopefully people will start to realize, more people will start to realize, and I'm not completely hopeless yet. I'm not. I don't feel like all hope is lost. I feel like we still have a fighting chance to save things, but we really do need a lot more people to understand what's happening. And I don't think it's helpful. I saw some of these, like even, Mike Pence, and he made some statements during the election. I think he could have been a lot more verbal, but, he did make some statements in like 23. But he's making more now. And even like, people that I'm never going to be a fan. Okay. The fact that any Republican senator, congressperson, is going to stand up and say anything, I think we can have our feelings about whatever these people did to help get us into this situation. but it's maybe now it's just a moment to be like, thank you for speaking up. And the same thing with our people that we know who voted for this. It's like, I know it's incredibly frustrating, you want to be like, well, this is exactly what I was saying for like the whole months leading up to this. Like, and also, how could you not know after last time? Of course, it's like very human to want to express that stuff. But I would say at the moment, like, we just need people to show up and be like, this is not what I voted for. Or you're like, well, okay, whatever other feelings you have about, well, yeah, okay, like, I maybe this isn't what you voted for, because now you realize it's going to have an impact on you. And so now you're upset. You didn't care about all the other stuff that I was saying, like, just to try to like save that for later, and just like, okay, great. Like, please call your senators, please call your Congress people, please let these people know that you are not okay with this. And if they don't stand up to this whole situation, you won't be voting for them next time. Like, that's it. That's what we need right now. I was going to tell you about this message. I basically just got a message from some dude who was telling me what I should and shouldn't post on my yoga page. And I don't know this person. It's not somebody I know. And I think there are a lot of dudes like that, a particular type of dude. And they're feeling really emboldened right now. They're feeling really emboldened, to tell women what they should and shouldn't talk about. And listen, I'm going to talk about whatever I want to talk about for as long as I can, I don't know what we're walking into here, but like, as long as I'm able to say what I think and write how I feel and why I feel the way that I do, I'm going to do it. And this idea that, we should separate our yoga practice or our spiritual practice from our daily life, that's not actually how it works. The whole point of, certainly I will, talk about the yoga practice, since I've been immersed in that for 34 years. The whole point is to become a more loving, engaged person in the world, a more compassionate person in the world. And, if that isn't happening for you, I would say something's going wrong. So that. And I think we've been through some really tough times in this country. I think that stuff can bring out the very best in people and the fight in people. And I'm hoping that that's what happens. I was talking about how sometimes I do worry that we're like too polite. But I am making those phone calls every day. And if you don't have the 5calls.org, there's an app you can download or the website you can use. Please keep calling your senators, your Congress people, your representatives. Like, just keep calling. If you can go to protests, please go. I do think it matters. If you can, Indivisible is a great organization. There are a lot of people that are really trying to do good work out there. And there's like on February 28th, an economic blackout. Are any one of these things going to be enough? No. I think we need the unions involved for like a real general strike. They know how to do it. And I think it needs to be more than a day. But whatever, it all helps and it all matters. And part of it is morale too, just seeing our friends out there, like knowing that people are out there and trying and speaking up, that matters too. I don't think that we're at the part where we give up and decide it's over. It's not over. We're not there yet. And at the same time, if you're scared or you're feeling, you have those days where you're like, oh, how are we going to be okay? If you feel like you need to like figure out what you would do in that scenario, I'm that kind of person. I need to do that in order to like feel okay. I need to know, well, what would I do if I started to feel like we just weren't going to be all right here? That's who I am. I need that in order to just be able to like have some sense of like calm around it. And, part of it is I have a daughter in this mess. I have a 15-year-old daughter in this mess. I have a son too. I have an 18-year-old son, but I have a daughter that I am worried about what is going to happen here for girls and women in this country right now. And I'm worried for a lot of people. But I'm not ready to, I'm not ready to like call it or anything. I don't think we're close to that. We have time and we have agency. And I think keep speaking up and also go for other things that are like a little bit, I've been talking about this too. I mean, try to find someone on your block who needs some help. Show up for your neighbors, if there are community town halls, like if you're, who's your mayor? Like, can you go to city hall? Is there something that you can be engaging in person? We have the fires out here in Los Angeles, the aftermath of all of that. And I went to an event about the cleanup and the way that's going down. And just being in community with people face to face, having conversations, that's really different than being online. And I know sometimes people are not able to do that. I understand if you are at home and that's where you have to be and it's going to happen over Zoom, it's great. Then do that. I understand. But if you have the ability to go and do some things in person, I would recommend it because it does have a different feel to it, a different energy to it, and don't give up hope. Don't give up hope. But do what you need to do for your own mental health. And if you need a day where you don't sign on to social media or anything else, and you just go and you're outside for the day, please take it. It's not like this mess isn't going to be here for you the following day. Unfortunately, we have days and days of this in front of us for a while. So, be good to yourself, be kind to yourself, stay engaged, but like take breaks when you need to. Just like if you were taking my yoga class, I would say to you, put your knees down when you need to, just make it about like breathing, staying curious, staying engaged, staying awake. That's it. And we'll hopefully pull through here, and be stronger for it and create a more perfect union. It's not like we have a lot of work to do anyway. And maybe, maybe we'll be able to, I don't know, just like pull this thing back from the brink of disaster and start again and really bring people who desperately need to be included in the conversation into the conversation. So hang in there. Don't gaslight yourself. Don't let anybody else gaslight you. If you're struggling, it's totally legitimate. And, but also don't give up hope. Try to stay somewhere in the pocket of all of that if you can. And if you need help, you know where to find me. Until next time, sending you lots of love.